What's up, ladies and sinners? Welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And all things Vegas sports is what we revolve our lives around at this moment because, well, sports just revolve their lives around Vegas. I mean, the Super Bowl's this week. Happy Super Bowl week. Not happy it's the Chiefs and Niners. We'll talk a little bit about that, by the way, Raiders fans. I hope you're listening. It is what it is, but your anger is misguided. I hate to say it, but your anger is misguided. It shouldn't be with the Chiefs. Yes, they're a rival, but it should not be with the Chiefs. And I will tell you why a little bit later on. Major League Baseball might be in trouble in Vegas. It might be. It seems as though the mayor of Vegas is kind of saying, hey, maybe you should maybe you should pitch a new plan to the Bay Area. I don't know. Bishop chimes in, don't worry, we're happy. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be in second place. Sorry, man, there's no way you're beating the Niners. They're too talented. I get it. If I were you, I'd just be elated that they're in the Super Bowl. Last time I watched the Super Bowl was back in 2002, and the Buccaneers just stomped us. But I'm being real with you. I don't see the Chiefs winning. Niners are too good. Way too good. Credit to the Chiefs. It's the best defense I've seen them field in 10 years. It's very impressive. But that offense, it could get suffocated. The stage will be too much for Purdy. Your boy Mahomes has nobody to throw to. I don't know how you could say that, man. And we've seen what happens last time, when people said those types of things. Mahomes got the crap kicked out of him, and a team like the Buccaneers, which, I mean, when you look at the 49ers top to bottom are built very similarly to this 49ers team. Like, this 49ers team is built to run the football well and is built to play defense, and that has been the Chiefs' only weakness for, like, the last 6 years. I love your positivity. I'm just saying, man, I think the Niners win. I think it's the Niners' year. Patrick will probably have 5 more Super Bowls to compete for. Not too worried about it. Welcome to the show, folks. Terry Rodriguez, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, host of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. He is also the host, of Set Point, IE Sports Radio Volleyball Talk. Jen B's in the house, host of our Cleveland show. Adam Karnick in the house, host of the Chi-Town Weekly and the Neutral Zone, which was on just before this show came on. NHL season's about to heat up, isn't it, Adam? It's going to be a blast, man. This final 2 months of the season is always the most fun to watch for the NHL. And then going into the playoffs, it's something about it. The teams that really want to win, they go on a run. And that's why I've commented during your show, man. I totally think that the Vegas Golden Knights are about to go on a run. When you look at their pattern the last 4 or 5 years, they tend to go on a run the last couple months of the season, after the trade deadline, after the All-Star break. Like, it's just their thing, man. Larry B chimes in, I'm here for them. Raiders. Yeah, baby. The A's are going to Vegas, no matter what anyone says. I don't know, dude. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire. I still think it happens because it makes the most sense for the A's. I just think the A's, right now, the roadblock, and we'll go ahead and dive into that. Right now, the roadblock for the A's is the owner. He's not understanding the value, right? He is still expecting Vegas to shell out more money. Vegas is not going to do that. If you guys remember, it was a few months back. I basically read an article, and I made sure I quoted the source. I'm sorry I don't have it up now, but essentially the Las Vegas themselves are willing to provide roughly $350 million in taxpayer money. And this money that Las Vegas is willing to provide the A's to relocate and build their ballpark, it's worth up to $500 million because they're essentially going to lease the stadium back to the A's dirt cheap, and it's going to allow the A's to essentially own the concessions in the ballpark, and that value in itself was equated just north of $500 million. But the A's owner The A's owner wants more money than $500 million. For some reason, the A's owner thinks that they deserve a similar amount of money to relocate to Las Vegas as the Raiders received. The issue is, and it's been an issue for a long time, Major League Baseball, unfortunately, is dying in popularity. It's just not talked about as much as it used to be. 10 years ago, shoot, man, 20 years ago when I was a kid, Major League Baseball, the Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, like those were primetime games. Those were games that everybody stayed up to watch. These days, it's not the case, man. I think there's too many damn games for one. Like, they need to make the sport more relevant again. There's too many damn games for that matter. Okay? When you look at these games, the only time you see fans in the stands is for games that matters. Otherwise, when you're watching a game throughout the week, they're lucky if they have 5,000 people in attendance. It's just not in a good spot. So this A's owner, in his mind, thinks that the Oakland A's, which would be the Las Vegas A's, deserve some sort of tax credit from the Las Vegas area. With, I mean, honestly, when you put it like this, the NFL is a license to print money. NFL is king. Roger Goodell said it, man. They can literally go to networks and say, hey, we want $140 million for you to play this playoff game on your network. Major League Baseball can't do that. It's a totally different echelon of power. It's a totally different echelon of popularity and relevancy. Football is king in America, right? Baseball used to be king. They just didn't really evolve with the times. They didn't evolve with the times. The players didn't evolve with the times. I'm sorry, man, but the A's just aren't worth the same kind of value the Raiders are. Major League Baseball is not on the same level as the NFL. If we're being honest, Major League Baseball could arguably be the third or fourth best sport in America right now. Because I think NBA is entrenched solely in second place. And then you have the NFL just way up there, right? Here's something to think about. Here's a sport that gets more viewership on a consistent basis than baseball. That's the WWE. And it's not even a sport. It's an unbelievable, attraction, entertainment. They have unbelievable athletes, but they receive more money and viewership than most WWE or most Major League Baseball teams do. I'm just being real with y'all. Man, I just don't get where the Oakland A's are coming from. It's pretty bad when the mayor says, hey, maybe the Athletics should pitch a plan to the Bay Area. I don't have sources in the area. What I can tell you is this. If I'm the mayor, I was able to find a way to get the A's, roughly $500 million in cash value to bring their sport or bring their team to Las Vegas, where they're going to improve their net worth greatly. I mean, look what happened to the Raiders. They went from being a team worth $970 million, the worst cash-strapped team in all of the NFL, to now being worth $6.8 billion. Isn't that crazy? And that doesn't even count, like, Mark Davis. I told you guys about that story. Mark Davis went and bought all the land near the complex that the Chiefs are practicing at, right? The Raiders practice facility, headquarters. He bought all the land there, and he's leasing it out to people who want to put their business in, or he's selling it off to cul-de-sacs, essentially, so that they can build homes and build up the area in Henderson, Nevada. I just, listen, the Raiders are a different echelon. So I don't know where the A's are coming from. I'm sure that the mayor is basically just kind of throwing this out there like, hey, if you don't like what we're offering, you could always pitch this to the Bay Area. The Bay Area isn't willing to offer anything. The mayor in the Bay Area needs to shut up. I don't know if it's Livy Schaaf still, but she's a joke, man. She lost the Warriors. She lost the Raiders. She lost the San Francisco 49ers in a really short period of time. Like, really short period of time. It's not a good look. And now we're looking at the A's. Oakland's just going to be absolutely irrelevant soon, unfortunately. Sometimes cities, I don't think they realize how much these types of sports teams bring to their community. And the Raiders are a perfect example of that. The black hole was legendary. Like, it just was taken for granted. I don't see Las Vegas getting exactly what they're looking for. I think the A's owner needs to kind of smarten up, find a way to fund the remainder of the stadium, and they should be fine. They should be fine. Ralph chimes in. He is the host of the Ginzer Report. He's also a IE Sports Radio Hall of Famer. Kale, have a great show. No Chiefs celebration on the Raider Nation field. Bishop said, "Don't worry, we're happy." Arrowhead West. The stage will be too much for Purdy. Yeah, we went over that. I don't think anybody could predict that. Uh, the stage looked like it was too much for Purdy, and he played really well against the Lions. By the way, if I remember correctly, the Lions beat the Chiefs early in the season. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's too big. Came back from a 3-score deficit. If you go to the Vegas Thrill at Omaha Supernovas match tomorrow, I will reimburse you for the ticket and anyone else you buy. I appreciate it, man. That is on a Wednesday night. I unfortunately have a work meeting tomorrow night, so I wouldn't be able to get away from that to go up to this volleyball event. I do think it's really cool that the Vegas Thrill, the ladies professional volleyball team, is coming to Omaha. I did find it crazy that the Omaha coach was already essentially resigned, and now he's becoming an advisor for the brand new head coach. I thought that tidbit you sent me earlier today was unbelievable, and it was fantastic at the same time. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't understand how sports do that. That doesn't seem like a winning formula. Winning doesn't seem like a winning formula at all. 2 months left. It's now crunch time. Yes, sir. Vegas Mayor, your stadium plan doesn't make sense. That's code for pony up more cash, Jack. 100%. 100% agree, Adam. Like, you have legitimately a baseball owner that is in the dumps in Major League Baseball themselves in Oakland, saying, "Hey, we want $200 million more dollars from you guys." Shut up, dude. Just take the money you were given. You got a really team-friendly deal. Try and refinance it. We're talking about a billionaire, man, trying to ask the city for more money. It's hilarious, dude. And I don't know if it's because Mark Davis is in his corner saying, "Hey, yeah, ask for more," but like the NFL and MLB, they're not comparable. It's not even close. 50 years ago, maybe it was comparable. Not anymore. Not even close. Football is king in America, 100%. Taryn, being the cash cow that is, 100%. When your league can go to a network and say, "Yeah, we'll allow you to air our game for $140 million if you want the rights to it." The Peacock situation, right? I think it was like $140 million a game. That is ridiculous, dude. What? We're talking about one game. $140 million. That's unreal, dude. That's crazy money. Soon volleyball will be rising in the sports ranks, having 2 pro women's volleyball leagues happening next year. Yep, and then you have the men's one that you do a great job of keeping track of and keeping us up to date on. 100%. I think volleyball in general, very underrated sport. I think it's just not looked at in the right. I love that there's clubs everywhere. I also love that it's one of those sports that you could play at any age, man. You can get in one of those leagues at any age, anywhere in America, especially if they. So I know we have a place here in Lincoln, Nebraska called Spikes, and they have like, I don't know, they have like 6 to 8 volleyball courts, and then they have like 6 to 8 sand volleyball courts. It's just a complex dedicated to volleyball leagues, and it's really really cool. But I feel like more states, more cities could do stuff like that. It'd be crazy. Something funny happened with Raiders fans this past weekend. Yeah? What was that? And I'm glad you brought that up, Taryn. Raiders fans. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it all, but I'm going to be real with you because I've always been real with you. I'm a Raiders fan. I've been a diehard Raiders fan my whole life. Taryn chimes in. So where I freelance seasonally, a couple of my buddies interviewed Raiders GM Tom Telesco this past Sunday. Telesco wore a light Colombian blue jacket at the interview. Almost every Raiders fan was complaining in the chat room about Telesco's jacket. It's laughable. Yeah, I mean, probably not a good look, but it is what it is, man. He's making a couple $1 million. I don't think he really cares how we feel about it. So Raiders fans, and I say this with love, man. Stop complaining about the Chiefs being in the locker room. Stop complaining about it. Stop complaining that the Chiefs are playing in your stadium, that the Niners are playing in your stadium. If you want that to change, then you guys need to start writing letters or messaging Mark Davis, because Mark Davis has not done a good enough job the last 12 years of fielding a football team that is relevant. Bishop's out here clowning, for sure. He's out here clowning, for sure. But Mark Davis is the problem. He's been the problem for a long time. We're on our sixth head coach since he took over 12 years ago. I'm being real with that. Mark Davis is the problem. If you Raiders fans have a problem with the Chiefs in your stadium, in your locker room, you need to reach out to the owner so the owner can do something about it. The owner needs to do a better job of hiring coaches. He needs to do a better job of running a good, solid business culture. It isn't all about making money. It isn't all about making money. Bishop said, no lie, bro. Yeah, go ahead and put that quote in the chat. I'll fact check it. Don't come in here with the smoke, man. Bring the fire. Mark Davis is a problem. He's been a problem ever since he took over. There's a reason why guys like Tom Brady are being asked to come into the loop. Because they're relevant, one, and two, they know how to win games. That's why Mark Davis likes his opinion. The problem with Mark Davis right now is he's on his sixth coach. We don't quite know what's going to happen moving forward. AP is a great dude. I'm really fired up about him getting the job. But if he falls on his face, it won't surprise me. Because he's an inexperienced coach. And Mark Davis just kind of folded because some star players were essentially about to mutiny if Mark picks somebody other than Antonio Pierce. Simple as that. I'm not kidding. You had Max Crosby, Devontae Adams saying, yeah, I would probably want to explore a trade if AP isn't hired. So Mark Davis folded. Where was that a few years ago when Khalil Mack was being put on the trade block? It's just Mark Davis has not been a good owner. It's all been on him, and he admits it, man. He'll straight up say, I haven't done a good job, while his pockets are getting fat, and he's charging the highest amount of money in the NFL for tickets. I'm just saying, dude. Stop complaining about the Chiefs. Stop complaining about the Niners. Raiders just need to focus on winning games, and this won't be a problem. Straight up. Exactly why the Browns fired Freddie Kitchens. Yes. I get exactly where you're coming from. I love Antonio Pierce. The difference between Pierce and Freddie Kitchens and any other interim coach that have been hired is Antonio Pierce has a group of former head coaches that have had a ton of success, helping him learn how to run a culture, because he doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to coach hands-on ridiculously. He just needs to coach the culture, and he needs to instill the culture and enforce the culture. That is the difference between being a head coach in like high school and being a head coach in the pros, right? In the pros, it is your job. It is your job to focus on making sure everybody's bought into the message, because offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators and special teams coaches, they're all paid hella amounts of money to run their sides of the football. Yes, Antonio Pierce gets the final say. Yes, a head coach gets the final say, but his main focus should be building culture, enforcing culture, and winning games. Period. So luckily, Antonio Pierce has guys like Tom Coughlin, two-time Super Bowl champ. Marvin Lewis won a ton of games, one of the greatest defensive minds we've seen in the last 3 decades, right? I know he didn't do a ton in the Cincinnati, but that's fine. He still won a lot of games, and he was a coach for a long time. Antonio Pierce has 2 guys in his corner with winning records and multiple Super Bowls, teaching him and advising him how to be a head coach in this league. And it's a good sign. It's a really good sign. I also noticed that Antonio Pierce is doing a great job of hiring former players to run positions. This is a players' league now, man. It's getting really close to how the NBA is. It won't ever be as bad because owners in the NFL are going to always have a stranglehold on the control of the team and the money. Unlike the NBA, where the players are kind of dictating that, right? They're dictating trades, where they want to be. That doesn't happen in the NFL. It's not even close. But the reality is, AP is doing a really good job of hiring coaches that have playing experience and that have had a ton of success. That's all positive, man, because players react to that. Maybe not the main coaches like the OC and DC or the special teams coach, but a lot of the position coaches are former NFL players that had really good careers. Adam Karnick says, "Hey, I have to ask, what is your opinion on the Vegas hiring or second choice for OC Luke Getsy?" Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go to break real quick because I want to ponder my thoughts on that. I have a lot to vomit, but I want to ponder my thoughts a little bit, and I'll get back to you on that, Adam. Here, when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is Muir be inviting you to join myself, Callum Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. If you folks miss a show, don't worry about it. Guess what? We have our shows available almost anywhere and everywhere. YouTube, IESportsRadio.com, Spotify, Google Pods, Spreaker. I mean, we're everywhere, dude. Good Pods, Apple Pods. You guys can catch the show, follow, like, re-listen to the show weekly here from our IE Sports Radio. And we have a bunch of people in this chat that all do shows. They all do a great job. Do not be afraid to look up their shows, follow, like. We really appreciate them for tuning in today and commenting in the chat. By the way, it's bulking season. If you guys are looking to bulk up, if you guys are looking to get a little extra protein in your body, maybe you should think about Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky Premium Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lakeshore Elsinore Storm. Lake Elsinore Storm single A affiliates of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket beef jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium, no nitrates, low in sugar, and high in protein. Planet Jerky. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. And if you guys want any information on that, go ahead and check out Instagram at Planet Jerky. If you folks are like looking for ways to put some pizzazz on your wedding invitations, or maybe just a letter out there, don't be afraid to reach out to Cecilia B. Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations, and you're looking for that extra special touch. Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend, and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's Hands made sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll seal the deal. Visit her Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps, Facebook Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Don't be afraid to do that. Cecilia's a great person. She's matched up with Larry B, so she's got to be an amazing person. IE Sports Radio, our platform, we got to give homage to them for the last 9 years. IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by and check out our merch. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And you can catch IE Sports Radio shows, like we said before, on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Geosvan. I always mess that one up. I swear I do. It's I feel so bad, but at the same time, it's hilarious. YouTube, and your personal page that I create for you on the IE Sports Radio website. Don't be afraid to go to the IE Sports Radio website. Look up the Sin City Sports Show. I'll have my little bio in there. We're goofy. But yeah, we talk all things Vegas sports. Fun game on tonight. Adam Karnick alluded to it earlier. The Golden Knights are playing the Edmonton Oilers. This is happening in Vegas. Right now, Edmonton has a 1-0 lead with about 6:45 left in the first period. What a great lineup of games, and it's that back half of the season where you really start to see the moves. Edmonton's been a hot team. They're 29-15-1. Right now, the Golden Knights are 29-15-6. They currently hold, I think it's like a 5-point lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. Sorry, the Vegas Golden Knights currently hold a 5-point lead over the Oilers, so this is a big game. This is a huge game. This gets the Oilers basically within a game and a half of the Vegas Golden Knights to overtake second place. I think Vegas is getting healthy at the right time. Adin Hill is absolutely killing it. It is hard to keep Connor McDavid off the board, but I'm telling you, man. He said McDavid with a shorty too. Of course it was McDavid. It's always McDavid, dude. Like that's what I'm saying. That's what I was alluding to. It's really hard to keep Connor McDavid off the board. There's really not much you can do about that. You just want to kind of minimize his impact. Leon Draisaitl's the same way. So Marchessault, guys like, yeah, I love Marchessault. Mark Stone, those guys really need to step up, start putting some goals in there. I know Marchessault was celebrating, I think it was his third hat trick of the season about a week ago or a week and a half ago. So we know he's getting hot. Great time to do that. But again, great lineup of games. And I do like that a lot of the opponents for the Vegas Golden Knights are the Pacific Division opponents throughout the remainder of the 2 months, because it really will matter. As long as they get within that top three, obviously, of the Pacific Division, they're looking at some sort of home playoff or hosting some home playoff. But there's a good chance that they go on a run. The Vancouver Canucks, on the other hand, first in the Pacific Division, they might just run away with this conference this year because they're absolutely on fire. So yeah, you guys keep up with that. We'll do another live update before the show ends tonight. Adam asked me a question, and it's a good question, and it's one I feel like is going to send me on a tangent a little bit. But this is my thing. And I'm just going to bring facts. I'm not going to bring my opinions yet. I'm going to bring facts because it's backed by stats. Okay? Mark Davis, again, is the problem. He empowered a young, inexperienced coach in Antonio Pierce to pick his staff. I'm sure he has final say. I'm sure Tom Telesco has final say on the staff members. So let's backtrack a little bit. Over the weekend, the Raiders narrowed in on Cliff Kingsbury. It was reported that Cliff Kingsbury was going to be the Raiders' offensive coordinator. No more than a day later, maybe half a day later, Cliff Kingsbury reportedly backed out, and it was because of some years in the contract thing. So here's the thing. Right now, what I can tell you is probably happening is I believe that Antonio Pierce is on a 2-year deal, and it's a 2-year prove-it deal because he was an interim coach. He is now the full-time head coach. He needs to show that he can really do what needs to be done. He needs to grow, and they need to win games. It's that simple. They have a good roster. They really just need a quarterback and to fill out some of the depth pieces on the offense and defensive line, and you're looking at a really good football team. They're a really good football team that beat Kansas City and Arrowhead this year. And didn't just beat them, like they beat them down defensively. Like that was the shell of the team. I have no idea why the rest of the teams in the league that played Kansas City wasn't trying to play the same defensive game plan that the Raiders did because they absolutely smoked them, man. The Raiders didn't complete a pass, I think, in the second half, and they still won the game. Pretty ridiculous. So you have talent on this team. You have an identity. So Cliff Kingsbury backs out. I honestly think the Raiders dodged a bullet with that one. I just don't see enough. Listen, this whole thing about Cliff Kingsbury being a quarterback whisperer is really weird because I didn't really see massive improvement from Kyler Murray when he was the head coach at Arizona. I didn't see winning seasons in Texas Tech. He had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, but you saw Patrick's biggest jump when he got to the NFL and he was coaching under Andy Reid, or he was playing under Andy Reid, right? Now, I'm not saying he didn't have the talent the whole time because Patrick probably did, but I'm just being real with y'all. I just don't know if Cliff Kingsbury was the dude that really transcends the quarterback aspect, and now he could very well get his hands on Caleb Williams. Overall, I know that anytime Cliff Kingsbury has been a coordinator or a play caller, the run game has been very, very good, even with his air raid background. The reality is he doesn't win a lot of games. They're not extremely efficient. And I don't think the quarterbacks develop. So when people call him a quarterback whisperer, I just don't see it, man. I don't see it. And I ultimately, this is what I think happened. I don't think he wanted a 2-year deal. I think he wanted a 3-year deal. And the Raiders were like, no, we kind of want you to match up with the head coach. It hasn't been announced what AP signed for, but there's a lot of people that speculated 2 to 3 year prove-it deal. I think it's 2 years. We talked about it way before he was hired. If they couldn't get Harbaugh, I said we probably need to put Antonio Pierce on a 2-year prove-it deal. Now, granted, compared to other interim coaches, I really think that Antonio Pierce has one of the best chances to be a very successful interim coach. Because you can tell he's extremely passionate, you can tell he's articulate, he's very smart, he's a successful businessman, but most importantly, he knows how to speak to people. And I think his message is pretty loud and clear. They're going to play physical Raider football. It's not going to be like it's been the last few years where you see finesse and this stuff and all that crap. We're literally his mindset is let's just go right down their throat. And that brings me to Luke Getsy, right? Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator. I hate the hire. I'm not going to lie to you. I dislike the hire tremendously. I thought Eric Bieniemy would have been a much better fit. Problem is Eric Bieniemy's got a checkered past. People can say whatever they want. They can say it was from 30 years ago. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you the truth. The man has a checkered past. He has a rap sheet. One of those things on the rap sheet was reported when he was in Colorado and he grabbed a lady by the neck. He assaulted a lady by the neck in Colorado. That legitimately happened. Mark Davis doesn't play with that, man. Mark Davis has been on record saying he will not hire or entrust somebody with a major position in his program or in his franchise that has any kind of physical assault on a female. It just won't happen. So I think Eric Bieniemy was the probably more qualified choice over Luke Getsy. I just think that Mark Davis's words and his stance against domestic violence and violence towards women is ultimately what kept Eric Bieniemy from getting a serious nod at the offensive coordinator position here in Las Vegas. And listen, man, it is what it is. I get it. It was 30 years ago. But I can tell you guys this. If you don't want that smoke, don't do it, man. If you don't want that smoke, don't make stupid decisions that put you in that situation. It's that simple. If you don't want to drive drunk, what do you not do? You don't drink, right? It's that simple, man. So, I don't know, man. He said EB wouldn't have gone to the Raiders. Well, you don't know that. Right now, he's unemployed. So, if the Raiders would have offered him a position, you don't know that he wouldn't have said yes. Apparently, the new Washington Commanders coach didn't value EB the same way that Ron Rivera did. And to be real with you, Bishop, he shouldn't have accepted the position. I know he wanted to get out from under Andy Reid's shadow, but Ron Rivera was kind of on borrowed time anyway. I'm just really surprised EB took that spot. I really am. I'm really surprised he did. I didn't think it was a good move for him. Now I feel like it's going to set him back a little bit further, where he's got to earn an offensive coordinator position again. I hope he doesn't have to go back to the Chiefs in order to get a job. I hope somebody gives him an opportunity as an OC, because I think he's really good with the run game. And obviously the Commanders did a really good job passing the football this year. But yeah, overall, yeah, we can't say that. A lot of coaches act tough, and then the Raiders come calling, and they're like, Telesco was the Chargers GM. Telesco talked crap about the Raiders years ago. Now he loves being the Raiders GM. It's just, when money's flashed in your face and you're unemployed, your opinions change tremendously. What do you mean 1 year? Like as the head coach? Are you talking about Washington messed up and should have went with EB for 1 year, what, as a head coach? So let me backtrack, okay? And I'm just going to state the real truth, man. This ain't about skin color. It's not about race for me, because I think Eric Bieniemy, I think he's changed. It's been 30 years. The reality is these rich white billionaire owners don't want somebody with a rap sheet that Eric Bieniemy has as the face of their franchise. And I think that's something people really need to wrap their minds around. If that dude didn't do what he did 30 years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about it right now. He would have a head coaching job because he's been endorsed by one of the top 3 head coaches of all time. So I disagree, man. I bring it up because that's what's thrown in our face no matter what we're looking at. Yeah, I agree. We're speaking about football, but we're also speaking about the business. It's the business of football. At the end of the day, it's the business of football that's holding him back from having a head coaching job, because the man has a rap sheet. It's that simple. He's deserving of being a coordinator, but if the team doesn't want to hire him as the face of the franchise, they shouldn't have to. If he didn't have a rap sheet, I'm telling you, he'd been a head coach a long time ago. Because he's a very smart football guy. One of the most respected run game coordinators in the league. By far. Like, you can tell his impact when he left the Chiefs. The Chiefs just don't run the ball as well. Like last year when you guys went on that Super Bowl run, man, you guys were pounding people on the ground. And I'd said that for months on our show. That's the last thing we want the Chiefs to figure out how to do is run the football. And they did. And Eric Bieniemy was a huge reason for that. Now he's not there, and the Chiefs are struggling. I think Eric Bieniemy is a great football coach. I also like that he's a bit old school. Unfortunately, it's just his past kind of holding him up. And it is what it is, man. He'll have to live with that. But Luke Getsy, man, I don't agree with the hire. Luke Getsy in Chicago struggled mightily. Yes, the team was trash. Let's be honest. Chicago was picking number 1 2 straight years, so the team was not good. So in Getsy's favor, benefit of the doubt, right? I give him benefit of the doubt that the roster was not very good. Reality is he had a talented quarterback. He did. He had a talented quarterback. They did peak the top 5 in rushing 2 straight years. So that's positive. Really positive stuff. Reality, passing game was in the high 20s, 25 to, was it 28 the last 2 years. The offensive ranks totaled 19th and 23rd the last 2 years in Chicago. So those are the facts with Getsy. Those are the numbers. The other thing that scares me, and this is where I get into opinion, right? They did flourish, and this is where I was about to get with that. I think the legs of over 600 yards of last year's rushing totals for the Bears was done by Justin Fields. So yes, they were a top rushing team, but you kind of wonder how much Justin Fields' ability and his athleticism really factored into that, right? And DJ Moore and Cole Kmet did get better this last year, 100%. I just don't think that Getsy did a good enough job of designing pass plays to get them guys open more often, especially when you have two impact guys like that. And your passing totals are trash. Like, they're one of the worst passing teams in the league. And at the end of the day, you're one of the best running teams in the league. So passing the football should be easy. The easy out, and what we hear on Raiders Twitter is, well, it was Justin Fields' fault. And then those same people come in saying we should trade for him. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Raiders Twitter's stupid. They're just not very smart. Suffice to say, even the Bears are trading Fields. If the Raiders were interested, they aren't anymore. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. I don't think Getsy's going to give him much of a grade. He's an excellent athlete. Fields is an excellent athlete. I think his development was hindered because he was a Chicago Bear, if we're being honest. I think his development was 100% hindered because he was a Chicago Bear. And when he was drafted, they didn't really have an offensive guru that could help develop him. So we may never know what's going on. Score update, it is 1-1 in Vegas. 1-1 in Vegas at the end of the first period. Man, that's got to be a good game. So yeah, Getsy, I'm not a fan of. 600 of those rushing yards from last year's totals came from Justin Fields, which means if the Raiders want that equal kind of production on the running game, they need a running quarterback. I don't know. I just don't like it, man. I think that he was a second option for sure, maybe even a third option. I think the reality is Antonio Pierce wants a guy that is very run game centric, one that is going to establish the run, because that is AP's mantra. He comes from the Tom Coughlin tree. He comes from the Tom Coughlin lineage, where they run the football and they play great defense and they set up play action. That's what he wants to do, and it's honestly pro football at its finest. You know, that's the epitome of pro football these days. You know, even the best teams still run the football really well, play great defense, and they set up play action. Some Raiders fans are more concerned about Telesco's jacket. Yeah. That's Raiders fans, dude. I'm a realist, dude. I know our team is bad. Like, it's not bad. It's talented enough to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, right? But there's just no consistency, and that has to do with the culture in the building. I hope AP changes that. I hope a players coach like AP changes that. I really do. I'm really happy to see that Champ Kelly stayed. I don't know if he really had a choice in the matter. I think Telesco did tell him, hey, dude, stick with me one more year. You're going to get a job next year. I think Patrick Graham stayed because the Raiders didn't allow him to interview anywhere else for the same position, right? If he would have been hired away, it would have been as a head coach. Patrick Graham staying totally helps the Raiders. He'll probably be in the head coaching candidate next year for sure, because every year it seems like, and Adam Schefter said this, every year 7 teams open up their positions. You, Kale, are a real Raiders fan. That's why I respect you. I appreciate it, dude. I'm just a realist, dude. They're a bad team. And I say as a bad team, when I say bad team, they're a bad team over the last 2 decades. And there's no arguing with it, right? Especially the last 12 years. Mark Davis has run this team essentially into the ground. The business side has flourished. The team is not consistent. It's very bad. That's why I just don't feel bad right now. Yeah, it's annoying that the Chiefs are playing in our stadium. It's annoying that the Niners are playing in our stadium for the Super Bowl. But the Raiders didn't do enough to prevent that. So, I mean, what can you do about it? If you really want to say something about it, how about you win 5 more games? You win 5 more games and it is an issue. If you win 5 more games, you're number 1 in the division. You have a clearer path to the Super Bowl. But the Raiders don't do that because they're not consistent. So if they're consistent with anything, it's hiring new head coaches. If they're consistent with anything, it's poor football culture and they just don't win. If they were consistent with anything before Antonio Pierce shows up, and he gets a ton of credit for this, they were one of the top teams in committing penalties every single year because they were undisciplined, they lacked fundamentals, they lacked an identity. That's the Raiders in a nutshell the last 2 decades under Mark Davis. Well, 12 years under Mark Davis. We were seeing glimmers of hope when Jack Del Rio was the coach, and we were absolutely running down the throat of teams with Latavius Murray and that big old offensive line behind, with Derek Carr handing the ball off and throwing away. It was MVP caliber season. Like that was peak Raiders because it was actually Raiders. Like it was gritty. We're going to punch you in the face type Raiders. Defensively, we're going to rush the passer and force turnovers. We've only seen that once, unfortunately, all come together once the last 12 years under Mark Davis, and that's a problem. I am very optimistic that AP can get some things turned around, especially when you have storied coaches like Tom Coughlin, like Marvin Lewis in the building with you. I do. I do have a lot of. It sounds like Adam Gase is a personality that is respected, and he is also somebody that is going to advise the offense. Luke Getsy is not going to do this all by himself. With Marvin Lewis as an offensive analyst, which is what his title currently is right now, Marvin Lewis is probably going to have some say in what Luke Getsy does on a weekly basis, because that's what AP needs somebody to focus on. Like AP needs Patrick Graham to focus on that defense and continue improving that defense and developing that defense, because if we're being honest, the talent on that defense isn't that great. Like you have 2 really, really good guys on that defense, and then the rest are bad. The rest aren't very good. They're role players. But Patrick Graham's took lemons and made beef stew. I don't know how you do it. He's just that good of a defensive coordinator. I'm just being real with it. AP has to focus on being the CEO, setting the culture, enforcing the culture, and then I think he does need to, continue to do that defensive-minded head coach speak, because he did a really good job last year of. So one of the things that I noticed, the Raiders were blitzing a whole lot more when Josh McDaniels got fired. That is 100% an AP thing. I totally believe it. I think he told Patrick, dude, let him go. And Patrick flourished when that happened, when he was allowed to create pressures. Hey man, I'm just, I used to watch Andy Milonakis. It was the worst show ever in history, but yeah, there was something where you take when you hand me lemons, I make beef stew, something like that. It's crazy. Yeah, Getsy's a no-go for me. Not a fan. I don't know how the team gets better. If the Raiders want to be a contender in the playoffs, they have to be a top 10 defense and a top 15 offense minimum. Getsy has no track record of showing he can be a top 15 offensive coach. Now, granted, the Raiders team is better than the Bears. I don't think anybody would argue that. The Raiders aren't picking number 1. So, and the Bears did win, but they won when Josh McDaniels was head coach, and anybody could beat us when Josh McDaniels was head coach. Yeah, what a joke. But the Raiders overall were a better football team. You need good coaching, man. So we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic. Raiders offseason plans. What are we looking at as a hire? Well, if you're going to have an offensive coordinator that's really good at calling run plays and runs efficient offenses, you need to have a better offensive line. Their number 1 plan should be, how are we addressing the quarterback position? Is Aiden O'Connell going to get a shot, or are we going to trade up, draft somebody, or do we have a veteran backup plan that they can hire or that they can go after? Like guys like Kirk Cousins, I think are going to be in huge demand this year, and it sounds like his camp is asking for $40 million. I don't think anybody's benefited more from free agency than Kirk Cousins, by the way. Unbelievable. To be fair, Bears are drafting one because Carolina sucked this year. I mean, that is fair, but you guys drafted number 1 last year because you sucked. Carolina traded up to take your pick. You're just reaping the benefits of that trade, but you're still picking top 10, which is pretty pathetic. even after that trade. But I digress. They got to build a strong offensive line for Luke Getsy in these running backs. We still don't know about Josh Jacobs. I'm operating under the assumption that Josh Jacobs will not be back as a Raider because I think Josh Jacobs is going to get 12 to 13 million a year, and I just wouldn't pay that on a running back in today's NFL. I wouldn't do it. It's not for me. Josh Jacobs has also been dealing with some nagging injuries towards the end of the season the last 2 years. I think it's okay to roll with a younger back. Go with Zamir White. Draft a back. If you guys look at my mock drafts, I've drafted a back in almost every mock draft I've done, and they've been in the later rounds because there are some really talented backs that are going to go later. The Raiders have to build a run-stout offense that can throw the ball when the run is built up, and they have to be able to do it whether you have a rookie quarterback, whether you have a veteran, whether you have Aiden O'Connell, especially Aiden O'Connell. They just have to be able to run the ball more efficiently. So that's how they really need to build their roster on the offensive side. On the defensive side, I think they need to strengthen their front seven. I think this young defensive backfield is actually really good with Jack Jones and stuff. Jack Jones, you have Trayvon Muir, who was starting to come out of his shell last year, and he had a couple picks towards the end of the season. I think you have Nate Hobbs, who's a stud. You have a really talented group of DBs. I think the Raiders really need to just stiffen up that front seven, and you're looking at an even better defense from last year. I like Spillane. I really like Divine Diablo. You guys know that. One of the guys I really like coming out of college this year is that James Williams out of Miami. The dude is 6'3", 230 pounds, and he played strong safety for Miami. That is a linebacker if I ever heard one. You guys could think I'm tripping, but imagine having an outside linebacker like him running with people or running to the ball. Like, dude is fast as hell. That's the kind of guy I want pursuing the football. If he can tackle, move him to outside backer, move him to will backer or something, man. That's what they did with Divine Diablo. They drafted a really big, strong safety, and they moved him to outside backer. And he's done nothing but flourish, and he's gotten better year to year at 6'3", 240 pounds roughly. Like, that's what you want. I think the Raiders really need to stiffen up that front seven. I think they need to draft a couple interior defensive linemen. If you can get a pass rusher in the late rounds, do it. Somebody for depth. I know Michigan's got a ton of pass rushers that are very high-quality pass rushers that aren't being looked at very well because of all the top talent in the first round. I think you're going to get some gems, man. You just got to go out and find guys that are really physical. And most importantly, AP's got a plan, right? They're looking for guys that play with nasty, that are physical, that want to drive people off the ball, that are extremely aggressive. We're going to see a different football team the next 2 years. Will that equal wins? I don't know. I'm optimistic. I don't know. But I do think we're going to see a much more fun, more physical football team out of the Raiders the next couple years. You can bet on that. And hopefully Telesco lands it, man. Reality for the Raiders at the quarterback position, I don't know if they're going to be able to trade into the top three with the Patriots. Like, I don't know what, Gerard Mayo's thoughts are about Mac Jones. Maybe he thinks Mac Jones is salvageable. They just need to find a coordinator that can handle him. But I also, by the same token, if I'm Gerard Mayo, I'm drafting one of those top three quarterbacks because at worst he lands with Jaden Daniels, who I think has got the most. He's the most intriguing quarterback in the draft, right? The Commanders, if they can somehow trade up to one, I don't think they'll have to give up a ton because it's only one spot. And I think Chicago knows that Caleb Williams just isn't interested in being a Chicago Bear. It's that simple. He's just not interested in being a Chicago Bear. His camp is making that very clear. Okay, let Washington trade up. Take a couple second-round picks from them. That'll only help the Bears. And then the Bears can still get a guy like Drake May. Or, if I were the Bears, if he's there, take Jaden Daniels. He's a damn stud, man. And then if I'm the Patriots, I'm taking Drake May or one of the two. I don't think I'm trading out of three this year. I think I'm taking the quarterback. Because the Patriots have over $100 million in cap space, and they could really do some damage in free agency if that's what they want to do, especially with Belichick gone. They could 100% do that. They just have to go out and get their guy at quarterback. And that's where I think the Raiders are kind of hosed. They're at 13. They'd have to trade up to the top three to get something. I discussed Williams at length last night. You can't blame him, dude. Chicago's been a shithole. It's that simple. I can't blame him. He's a diva. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't like his camp. I don't like that they've been telling people he has no issue being drafted by the Bears. That's not what's being floated out on all the major networks, dog. I'm just telling you, where there's smoke, there's fire. If he doesn't want to be a Bear, he doesn't want to be a Bear. I know he's a Washington native. He's from Washington. Maybe that's more along the lines of what they're trying to push. If the Bears draft him, maybe he does play. Maybe he does play. But he's a Washington native. So maybe they're trying to say that, put up some smoke screens so that way Washington's willing to trade up. And the Kingsbury thing is kind of a, I mean, that's I don't know, man. Again, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a good chance that the Washington Commanders are going to trade up to 1 to get Williams anyway. So it might be a moot point. Regardless, if Williams' camp is saying that, and they have been, by the way, it's been confirmed by Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, multiple large analysts have said that the Williams camp is not a fan of the Bears. And if that's the case, you don't want him on your team anyway. Just let Washington trade up, give you a few second-round picks or something like that, maybe 3 straight second-round picks or something like that, and you're the wiser. You move up, you let them move up 1 spot, you move back, you still get a really, really talented player. You draft 9, you can still trade. The thing with the Bears should be a positive about is that you have the opportunity to have 3 first-round picks this year. Because some team in that back half of the first round might come calling saying, hey, we'll take Justin Fields for the number 16 overall pick. And of course you go with that, right? Because I don't know if you're going to get much more than a first and maybe a third. But yeah, that's the reality, man. I just don't think the Raiders have a chance to get one of them top quarterbacks. So to me, if Michael Penix continues, so he rose because of the Senior Bowl, but he's continuing to fall because of the injury history, right? So the way I look at it is this: if they get to 13, and if the Raiders feel like there is no threat of losing one of those other 2 quarterbacks, like 3 quarterbacks, I should say, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, or Michael Penix, I think they should trade back. Just trade back. Someone from the 20s is going to trade up to 13. Or take the top tackle. I just think this is the year the Raiders need to go after a quarterback if they really want one. It's that simple. I think this is the year that needs to happen if that's what they want to do. I could be wrong, but I'm just being real about the situation. The Raiders are in quarterback peril right now. They got rid of a veteran that, you can say what you want about the Saints. Saints version of Derek Carr, he went 25 and I think it was 7 this year as a passer. He missed a game and a half because of broken ribs, an injured AC joint in his throwing shoulder. Like, the dude got tattered. He got beat to shit. When Michael Thomas got removed from the team, all of a sudden they started winning games, right? But the Raiders got rid of that guy who would have been coming into his second year in the Josh McDaniels offense. Grass isn't always greener, man. It really isn't. So we'll see. I think Aiden O'Connell also has an attitude. Aiden O'Connell to me speaks Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he's as good as Brock Purdy. I'm just saying, like, he's a young quarterback that was drafted later in the draft that has the tools to get it done if you build a really good football team around him. I.e. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, top 5 offensive line, top 5 weapons, like top 5 defense. You know what I'm saying? One of the top pass rushers. All Purdy had to do was step in and manage the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he usually goes above and beyond that. I see AOC doing the same thing. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our forums at SinCity_IESR, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. Tune in every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard, where we go after it, IE Vegas. As always, folks, thank you for tuning in. Check us out on all of our podcast forums. And love, peace, and hair grease, folks.